Hi everyone! So today I'm quite excited because I'm going to share a new palette that I put together, and it has 18 colors. So you know, if you watch my videos, that predominantly this is the palette that I use for my Friday watercolor sessions, and you will see this beautiful something happening right here, and I will explain soon what this is. But basically I have used 6 of the colors from this palette because I realized I quite like them in my new palette, and then introduced 6 other colors, so it's not completely new, sort of half new, I would say. At the end I kind of was thinking, do I really need the greens? But I decided to keep them. Not sure whether I really will need them in essence, because this is sort of the green mixes that I get. It's not really that many. I mean, if you look here, half of the watercolors are blue and green, so it's very kind of 3 yellows, 3 reds, 3 blues, 3 greens, so it's very structured. With this one it's more of an kind of creative color combination, and so this is the swatches, the mixes that I have done. And as you can see, in terms of blue, ignore this one because I didn't include it in the end because I realized I really don't need it. And purple is the color that I use least, and I'm not a huge fan of it, so basically I have very little purple here. In case I do need, I can mix it. And then predominantly it's the reds and the pinks here, some neutrals, which is unavoidable because obviously if you have any greens and if you have any reds, then mixing them together will give you that. So in terms of greens, I have a beautiful small selection right in this corner of the mixes, and some of them are actually very, very pretty, like this green here, and a couple of them actually I don't have any dislikes. Even this one is very interesting. I hope you can see. So this paper here is the Jane Davenport canvas journal, which is a sort of watercolor sometimes doesn't react on it this in the same way as it does on watercolor paper, on the like 300 GSM or something like that. So I'm going to do some swatches today on this cheap Tiger 300 GSM aquarelle paper, as they call it, and so you will see the difference. But basically here are all the colors. So before I put this palette together, I kind of was thinking in which order to put them, and I was considering Moonglow at one point, and like I said, Ultramarine blue, but those colors didn't make it. And then sort of I was moving them around, and eventually I decided this is the sort of arrangement that I want to go with. So starting with gold, going into the yellows, pinks, reds, and then I have one blue really, which is the Mayan Blue Genuine by Daniel Smith, and then I have a few greens, so I have 3 greens and some kind of neutrals. You could call them neutrals, but they are sort of skin tones for my liking, and then Payne's Grey just because I quite like using it in my watercolors. So basically this watercolor I composed, look at these beauties. Some of them might have set and others are still wet, so we'll see how it goes when we do the swatches today. But basically this watercolor palette I designed for my face illustrations. There's something, I had an idea, and it's one of those that you want to grab before it goes, and I had a very clear vision of something I want to try for my face girls. Quite literally this is the color scheme that I wanted to create. So I'm quite happy with it. So basically I'm using this Heidi Swapp metal tin. This is from her Magnolia Jane, I think, collection, and it actually is a little container for these gold clips, but I purchased it because I wanted to have it as a watercolor palette. Now, like I said before, or maybe not, I used this sheet of magnet, which you can buy on Amazon, which I did, and then just cut little pieces. And this particular magnet, it was ages ago that I bought it. I don't know if it's still available, but I'll try to find it, and I'll put everything on the in the links below. And so this magnet is, it has an adhesive on the other side, so you just peel off the paper and you adhere it, and so you don't need to even use any glue or anything with it, and then you just stick it on there and it stays really well. I just realized the buff titanium is very wet, so I got my finger in there. Okay, so let's go ahead and do some swatches, and I'm not going to do a demo as such today, just because I feel like I want to have a few experiments off camera first to be able to put the idea that I have in my mind onto paper, because not always is it that straightforward. So today let's just swatch them, and you'll get to see some very beautiful new colors that I have added to my collection, and I will tell you from which brand they are as well. Okay, so let's start with the swatches. I'm going to use my Jackson's Quill 10-0 brush. Now the top of the tin is great for mixing. So now the gold one I'm going to dip in or drop a little bit of water, just because I'm not sure how set it is. As a matter of fact, it's not too dry. Okay, so this is Schmincke Horadam Gold, and to be honest with you, there is no particular reason why I purchased this one versus the Daniel Smith. So I can't tell you that I love this one more or it's better. It's just, it's great. It does the job. You have to make sure you don't use too much water with it. And it is a beautiful gold. So at the minute you won't be able to see it. Kind of regret adding that water on top because it wasn't set, so it would have been perfect. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that, but you can get it quite opaque. However, if you're really after beautiful golds, the colors or the watercolors that I would recommend is the Finetech palette with their beautiful handmade watercolors. They're just the best golds I can recommend, or the best that I have tried. So the next one is Daniel Smith, and this is a lemon yellow, beautiful lemon yellow, quite vibrant and juicy. Next one is the Indian yellow. Now all of these colors are great to neutralize skin tones and mix skin tones. So Indian yellow's one of my favorite yellows, so I always want to have it in a palette, regardless for what purpose. I use it a lot in my floral illustrations, and intending to use it in the doll faces as well. Next one, I was contemplating whether I should or should not include Daniel Smith Quinacridone Gold, but it's a great mixing color for skin tone. So if I mix it in with a bit of pink, it neutralizes it quite nicely and makes it a very pretty color. So next one, we're going to go, this should be a bit dry now. This is a new color to my collection, which is Daniel Smith Rhodonite Genuine. So it's from the Primatech range, and it is from a real stone. So it's a beautiful muted kind of pink, and you'll see why it is muted when I'm going to put the quinacridone pink next to it. You'll see the difference. So it's a very pretty color. So like I said, this next one is also by Daniel Smith, quinacridone pink, and it is super pretty color for cheeks and lips and all of that. I use it a lot for my florals as well. Next one is a color I haven't used a while, but it's been in my collection for a long time. It's the Alizarin Crimson, and I thought I had to include it because it's just a stunning warm toned pink, and it's very vibrant. It's just like a cherry kind of color. And yeah, very beautiful. Next one is a new color to my collection, and it's the Daniel Smith Perylene Scarlet. Now I swapped this one with the other red that I had from Daniel Smith in my portable painter, and you'll see why in a minute. So it's a stunning vibrant color, and it's a lot more, I find it's a lot more transparent than the Perylene Scarlet. So the Perylene Scarlet and Pyrrole Scarlet, they are two different colors, and hopefully you can see side by side. This looks a little bit opaque, and it's a warm toned red, still very beautiful, I love it. But this one is a cooler, and it is also more transparent, it seems. It doesn't have that sort of opacity to it, and this is perfect for, you know, the range of lips and cheeks and all of that. Something a little bit more muted, I also decided to include a kind of darker red, and this is the Deep Scarlet. And basically it's a stunning color, very beautiful. You can see it's not as kind of red, it's sort of more burnt kind of color, but it is amazing on its own and actually beautiful when mixing as well. So I will show you in a second. So then the third row here, this first one that has properly dried up. So this is the only blue that I have in my palette, and it's the Mayan Blue Genuine. So very kind of calm grayish kind of blue. I didn't want any of those screaming blues like cerulean or ultramarine. I just thought they had no place in this palette. Now next one is a gorgeous new color. So this one again was from Daniel Smith, and it's the Genuine, so it's from the Primatech line. Next one here is also a new color to my collection, and it's the Daniel Smith Ultramarine Turquoise. It's a stunning color. And then we have a kind of really dark green, and I sort of almost consider it like a gray with green tint. It's a stunning color from Schmincke. It's one of the new colors from 2017, and it is an absolutely necessary color when it comes to florals, but I also like using it as shadows in my dolls illustrations, and it's got that sort of like a Payne's gray kind of look to it, but with a green, like a muted green. So I do love that. Next one is Sub Green, and this time I decided to go for the Daniel Smith Sub Green just because I haven't used it in a while, and it is a beautiful color. It's more muted than it's sort of deeper and more muted than Winsor & Newton Sub Green, which is the color that I have in my portable painter. So if I hold it against here, you can see that this one is sort of more grassy and more juicy, whereas this one is kind of has more depth to it. So moving on to the final one, I have also included it in this palette, which is the Daniel Smith gold green. I don't think I can have any palette without it, just because it's one of my favorite greens along with sap green. It is as if you take sap green and inject it with sunshine. It has a glow. This color is just so unique and so beautiful that I cannot go on not including it in any type of palette, whether it's florals, whether it's just regular or anything really. I don't really know if I'm going to be using it, but I do feel like I want to have it, and it would make me feel like I'm missing out on something if I didn't include it. So next one is a bit of a strange one, but I thought it would look really nice for mixing skin tones. So this is a new color to my collection, and a very untypical color because it's not vibrant, and it's sort of I believe if you pack it on, it's more on a opaque kind of side, although it looks very translucent when you're using it like that. So it's the Daniel Smith English Red Earth. It's beautiful on its own for skin tones, but you can also obviously adapt it to whichever darker or lighter or whichever other skin tone you want to take it to. So then next one is the very, very special color, which I have not seen many YouTubers mention here on YouTube, but I am so happy that I included it in my palette. And in fact, side by side, they look so similar. They actually look like almost the same watercolor, but you have to wait until it dries to see what is so special about it, because when it's wet you won't see it. And then finally we've got the basically white and the black, so to speak. For the white I'm using Daniel Smith Buff Titanium, which is a classic color, sort of like a base color for mixing skin tones. You just need to add a little bit of pink or quinacridone gold with a little bit of pink, and then you're going to get a big range of really pretty skin tones. But aside of that, I will show you in the mixes here that it actually is a very valuable color for mixing some very pretty lighter shades of any other color that you have in the palette. So finally we've got Daniel Smith Payne's Grey. I also bought this color new. I didn't have it in my palette, but I use it very, very often. The one from White Nights, it's one of my favorite colors. So I thought, because I don't have it in a tube and I wanted to have it so I could, you know, squeeze it into these half pans, I went for it, and it's just a classic. So stunning kind of gray, which I don't need to spend much time mixing you know, these colors, for example, to get to a similar color. I can just use it as it comes. So that's the color range of my palette, and like I said, so these are pretty much skin tones over here, then the lip, and some mixing values with some shadows and things like that. So there isn't a color that really screams out at me that perhaps would not be used very often, except for sap green. I'm not entirely sure what I would use it for, but I did want to include it just so that I have it along with the gold green. So now let's look into these lovely mixes here. Okay, so let's look now at the variety of these mixes that I could do with the colors that I have here in the palette. So starting off quite, you know, usually as you do, you just take one color, for instance, the lemon yellow, and then you mix it with a range of colors. So here I actually started with the pinks, so going that way, because, you know, there was no need for me to see what the lemon yellow would look like with, for example, Indian gold or Indian yellow and quinacridone gold. So basically that's what I have done for the range of colors. And what's interesting is I would look at this part right here. So these lovely pinks that I could create, predominantly, if you look at it, it's the English red earth, so this row here. The next one to it is the iridescent Scarlet red, which is beautiful. That's the that's that color right here. It's almost dry, so I'll show you how beautifully it has that kind of like green sheen to it. So it's a duochrome, beautiful watercolor. And in fact, added to all of these colors, it seems to make them a little bit lighter, as well as giving them a beautiful sheen. I have to say that on this paper it doesn't come out too well, but it did do that over the entire range of the watercolors. And for example, this one here, which is mixed with sap green, it created that beautiful kind of very unusual looking color, which separated into almost two colors. Very pretty. And also, for example, with Payne's green, it creates a nice color here as well. So just with any color, it's a beautiful color to have in your palette for using on its own, as well as mixing. Just really nice. I haven't come across a single watercolor that would do exactly that, as in it wouldn't make a single color look bad. It just is very pretty. And then the final row is the buff titanium, which is the lightest one. Let me just bring it down here. So it's this color right here, and it just kind of takes it to a paler color, very similar to actually very similar to English red earth, which I was a little bit surprised about, because you know they're very different colors. Some colors mix quite different, but some colors are almost identical if you look at these two rows. But yeah, you know, all of them are very pretty. The other thing to say is that the Mayan blue genuine is a great color again for mixing as well. It just is so pretty when mixed with all of these colors, to be honest. So yeah, and if you wonder what it looks like with the pinks, you need to look at this row right here, because that's what it looks like with these colors. So you can create purples if you do need to do that. So that is that, and then let's finally look at the greens, which I already talked you through. So you get a few neutrals, but predominantly some very pretty greens. I really like them. And for example, this one is mixed with I think this was with the buff titanium, again creates a super pretty color. So this was the ultramarine turquoise with buff titanium. It gives you that super pretty turquoisey kind of more of a lifted color, not as deep as this. And mixing that ultramarine turquoise with Payne's gray gives you that beautiful muted color as well. Very nice. So yeah, that's my color range, and next time we will, hopefully when I make the video, I hopefully will have designed the certain look that I have in my mind, and I can share that with you. So have a look at these colors when they're now nice and dry. So this is the let me just see, deep scarlet. So it's a beautiful kind of like a burnt orangey red, and this is just a stunning color. I have to say that before this one there was a White Knight's red that I absolutely adored, and this has to be a new version of it. So I had to pull out my White Nights palette swatch card, just because I wanted to show you something. So Scarlet was my all-time favorite red. This paper is Arches Rough that I have swatched it on, so it will look slightly different than on other papers, but basically it's such a stunning red. And the only problem I had with it was the fact that it wasn't light fast. So, and then the Scarlet from Daniel Smith, which is in my portable painter, you can see it's not, it's kind of, it's a slightly different, it's similar but not as close. And then this actually looks quite different color-wise. It's a lot cooler, obviously, but I have to say that it might be my new favorite. And I just checked the light fastness, and it's A2, so that's very, very good. And yeah, so kind of really excited about this color, to have it in my palette. It is very quickly becoming one of my favorites. And from the new colors that I have added to my palette, I would say that probably pretty much all of them are very, very unique, but particularly this one, which is the Iridescent Scarab Red, and let's see, obviously the Ultramarine Turquoise, it's a stunning color, but I also quite like the Rhodonite Genuine as well. And why not Mayan Blue Genuine, just because it's pretty on its own, very, very pretty on its own, and super pretty mixed with other colors as well. So that's a little share video for you right there. And thanks for watching, and see you soon.